Hello friends, have you ever felt that the society is putting so much restrictions on you that you are unable to even express your desires and dreams, leave alone pursuing them? Today I want to take you through a poem Kamala Das had written titled as An Introduction. It's a very famous poem. It's being taught in every university where we have BA or MA course in English literature. This Kamala Das won Sahitya Academy Awards. She was also recommended or rather shortlisted for Nobel Prize in Literature. In this particular poem, she will be confronting or openly flouting the social norms and restrictions and all those things which create restrictions or confine you in some way. The poetess rather, in this poem, she's writing a confessional poetry, and confessional poetry, poets make a lot of confessions about their life. They talk and discuss their experiences of personal life, which are sometimes not only distasteful for several readers, but can also be disgusting or offensive. So when you're going to see this poem, then please don't be rigid and be flexible and try to see this world from the perspective of the poetess. This woman, Kamala Das, she will share some terrible experiences related to her first sexual encounters of life. She will discuss her body parts. She will discuss these things in such vivid ways which no person would do in public. But that is what sets these poets, confessional poets, apart. So let's quickly go through this poem. I hope you would love it. I don't know politics, but I know the names of those in power and can repeat them like days of week or names of month beginning with Nehru. मुझे ज़्यादा राजनीति के बारे में तो नहीं मालूम, मगर मुझे उन तमाम लोगों के नाम अच्छे से याद हैं, नेहरू से शुरू होकर, जो कि सत्ता में हैं. I'm Indian. The poet will tell a little bit about her identity. I'm Indian, very brown, born in Malabar. I speak 3 languages, write in 2, dream in 1. Now she says further, don't write in English. Now she's saying what the society says to her, what people say to her. What people would say to her, don't write in English, they said. English is not your mother tongue. So the society says कि English में मत लिखो. But she replies back to them, why not leave me alone? तुम सब लोग मुझे अकेला क्यों नहीं छोड़ देते? Why not leave me alone? Critics, friends, visiting cousins, every one of you, तुम सब लोग मुझे अकेला क्यों नहीं छोड़ देते? Why not let me speak in any language I like? The language I speak becomes mine, its distortions, its queerness, all mine, mine alone. तुम मुझे अकेला क्यों नहीं छोड़ देते कि मैं जिस लैंग्वेज में चाहूँ उसमें बात कर सकूँ. मैं जो भी लैंग्वेज बोलती हूँ वो मेरी हो जाती है, उसकी खामियाँ, उसकी खूबियाँ मेरी हो जाती हैं. इट इज़ हाफ इंग्लिश, ठीक है, वो आधी इंग्लिश है. हाफ इंडियन, फनी परहैप्स, बट इट इज़ ऑनेस्ट. इट इज़ एज ह्यूमन एज आई एम ह्यूमन, डोंट यू सी. मेरी लैंग्वेज भी उतनी ही सच्ची और ह्यूमन है जितनी कि मैं हूँ. It voices my joys, my longings, my hopes, and it is useful to me as cawing is to crows or roaring to the lions. मेरी लैंग्वेज मुझे एक आवाज़ देती है, अपनी खुशियों को, अपनी इच्छाओं को, अपनी उम्मीदों को एक्सप्रेस करने का एक मौका देती है, और वो मेरे लिए उतनी ही उपयोगी है, उतनी ही रिलेवेंट है जैसे कौवे के लिए खाऊं खाऊं या शेर के लिए उसका दहाड़ना. It is human speech. The speech of the mind that is here and not there, a mind that sees and hears and is aware. Not the deaf, blind speech of trees in storms, or of monsoon clouds, or of rain, or the incoherent mutterings of the blazing funeral pyre. थोड़ा सा सीरियस हो गई है पोइट यहाँ पर कि ये आवाज़ मेरी है और इस आवाज़ में एक मीनिंग है, और ये वैसा गूंगा या वैसा बहरा नहीं है जैसा पेड़ों के तूफ़ानों में पेड़ों की जो आवाज़ होती है, या ये मॉनसून में बादलों की जो आवाज़ होती है, या फिर ये बारिश की आवाज़, या फिर ये जो तुम्हारी ये जो फ्यूनरल पायर्स होती हैं, रिचुअल्स होते हैं, इसकी चिता की जलने की जो आवाज़ होती है, उसका कोई मीनिंग तो तुम्हें समझ में आता नहीं है, लेकिन मेरी आवाज़ का तो मीनिंग समझ में आता है, मेरी लैंग्वेज का तो मीनिंग समझ में आता है. सी यहाँ पे हमें दिखता है, वी आर एबल टू सी दैट हाउ द पोएट इज़ हैविंग स्लाइट एंग्विश टुवर्ड्स द रिचुअल्स ऑफ द रिलीजन. फ्यूनरल इज़ not only a disturbing or a painful experience for you to see, but it is also a very key ingredient of the Hindu religion. Then she says about her childhood, or rather she would tell about her uh, adolescent age, what happened. And these are some extremely personal confessions she will make. I was a child, and later they told me I grew. For I became tall, my limbs swelled, and one or two places sprouted hair. मैं तो एक बच्ची थी, और फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि तुम बड़ी हो गई हो, क्योंकि मेरी थोड़ी हाइट बढ़ गई थी. My limbs swelled, possibly she is talking about her breasts, and one or two places sprouted hair. कहीं कहीं पर hair आने लगे. So here we get to know that the poetess has hit the puberty age. She's adolescent, and how she is without any hesitation drawing attention to her own body, discussing hairs sprouting here and there or limbs swelling. These are the kind of things no person would discuss in public life, but confessional poets, they often do. Now she further says, when I asked for love, not knowing what else to ask, for he drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the door. और फिर जब मैंने प्यार मांगा, क्योंकि कुछ और तो मालूम नहीं था कि क्या मांगना चाहिए. He drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the door. उसने एक 16 साल की जवान लड़की को बेडरूम में खींच लिया और दरवाज़ा बंद कर दिया. He did not beat me, but my sad woman body felt so beaten. उसने मुझे मारा तो नहीं, मगर उस दिन मेरे अंदर की जो एक औरत का शरीर था, मानो वो टूट सा गया हो. The weight of my breasts and womb crushed me. I shrank pitifully. What a terrible state. See, the poet was initially talking about Nehru, but now the focal point of our attention is the body of the poetess. She's talking about how she felt crushed under the weight of the breast and wombs. Breast and womb, they are some of the most identifying and biological features of a woman's body, which sets her apart from males. Womb is supposed to be something which gives you the power of creation, or maybe joy making, if we include the organs, other organs also, related organs. But instead of that giving you any joy, instead of that giving you any power, here the same womb is becoming the cause of your helplessness. That isn't the sense. The same womb, the breast, which might have invited the lust of a ferocious man. We are calling him ferocious not because he was violent towards the poetess, but he had complete disregard for her feelings, for her thoughts, for her comfort, for her consent. So she felt so helpless. And this looks like a marital rape, something like that. And see, he did not beat me. Why he did not beat her? Because he did not require, there was no need for beating, because already the society had withdrawn any kind of support from her. So he had the strength of that patriarchal society, where without even beating, he could accomplish what he wanted, what he desired, what his needs were, without even an iota of approval or introspection into the needs and desires of the woman, or the girl, in fact, since she was quite young. Because of this terrible experience, this terrible sexual encounter, the reason for which was her womanliness, she started hating her womanliness. and then she would start acting like men or wearing dresses of men. So she says, Kamala Das says, then I wore a shirt and my brother's trousers, cut my hair short and ignored my womanliness. Then how the society would say, how the society would reply, dress in saris, be a girl, be a wife, they said. Be embroider, be a cook, be a quarreler with servants. एम्ब्रॉयडरी करो, कुकिंग करो, साड़ी पहनो, लड़की बन के रहो, पत्नी बन के रहो, और अगर गुस्सा ही आ रहा है तो फिर सर्वेंट्स से झगड़ा कर लो, सर्वेंट्स को कंट्रोल करो. समथिंग विच हैपन्स क्वाइट ऑफन इन मिडिल क्लास और अपर मिडिल क्लास फैमिली. फिट इन और बिलोंग, क्राइट द कैटेगराइजेस. और ये सारे लोग जो समाज को खांचों में बांट देते हैं, मेल फीमेल के खांचे में, मैरिड अनमैरिड के खांचे में, इन खांचों में बांटने वाले, इन कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड करने वाले इन लोगों ने मुझे बोला कि ओ बिलोंग, दैट यू बी लाइक ए वुमेन. डोंट सिट ऑन वॉल्स और पीप इन थ्रू आर लेस्ड ड्रेप्ड विंडोज़. ये लड़कों की तरह दीवारों पर मत बैठा करो, ये खिड़कियों के पर्दों में से झांक झांक के बाहर मत दिखा करो. बी एमी और बी कमला और बेटर स्टिल बी माधवी कुट्टी. सी what she's saying is, society is asking her, saying to her, be Emmy or be Kamala or better still be Madhavi Kutti. All these three names are the names of the poetess. Kamala Das was the name which she got after marriage. Other name may be the name which her parents gave to her. One name may be the name which she is using to write poems. So the name which you have for yourself, it defines certain roles for you and you get into that role. So the society is saying to her, इट इज़ टाइम टू चूज़ ए नेम, ए रोल. एक नाम सोच लो अपने लिए, फाइनल कर लो उसको और उसी के अकॉर्डिंग रोल प्ले करो. डोंट प्ले प्रिटेंडिंग गेम्स, ये गेम्स मत खेलो. डोंट प्ले एट स्किज़ोफ्रेनिया और बी ए निम्फो. स्किज़ोफ्रेनिया इज लाइक ए मेंटल डिसऑर्डर, मल्टीपल पर्सनैलिटी डिसऑर्डर, समथिंग सॉर्ट ऑफ दैट. और डोंट बी ए निम्फो. निम्फो इज अ पर्सन हु हैज़ अनकंट्रोल्ड सेक्शुअल urge. So society is saying to her, don't have this uncontrolled sexual urge. Don't be like a nympho. Nympho is used as a derogatory word in negative connotation. But was the poetess really a nympho? No. Was her needs and desires illegitimate? Her needs and desires of love and affection were not illegitimate, but in the eyes of a society which has historically been completely blind to the needs and desires of a woman, and especially the sexual needs and desires of a woman, definitely any expression of such needs by the poetess would be seen as lust or as a nymphomanic person. So further she says, what the society is saying to her, don't cry embarrassingly loud when jilted in love. जब दिल टूट जाता है तो ऐसे चीख चीख के मत रो. I met a man, loved him. The poetess would say further, I met a man, loved him. मैं एक आदमी से मिली, उसे मैंने प्यार किया. Call him not by any name. He is every man who wants a woman. उसे कोई एक नाम मत दो, उसे एक नाम देकर एक पर्टिकुलर व्यक्तित्व में मत बनाओ. Don't give him a name in a sense that I'm not considering him as a particular man, but he is just like every other man. तो उसे अभी यहाँ पे नाम नहीं दिया जा रहा. He is every man who wants a woman, just as I am every woman who seeks love. तो जैसे every man wants a woman and every woman wants love. Woman को प्यार चाहिए, according to the poet. And she says a very beautiful statement here. It's a very beautiful lines. In him the hungry haste of rivers, in me the ocean's tireless waiting. उसके अंदर एक भूख थी, एक hungry haste मतलब जल्दबाजी थी. उसके अंदर जल्दबाजी थी, एक भूख थी जैसे नदियों में होती है. You might have seen rivers how sometimes vigorously they're flowing. In me the ocean's tireless waiting. और मैं समुद्र की तरह थी, अनंत. मेरी पेशेंस अनंत थी. मैं अनंत इंतज़ार करने वाली एक औरत थी और उसके अंदर एक भूख थी, जल्दबाजी की. Who are you? I ask each and every one. मैं सबसे पूछती हूँ कि तुम कौन हो. The answer is it is I. और हर कोई मुझे बोलता है I, मैं. देखो, I represents individualism. When you are not able to see beyond yourself, when you are not able to understand the needs and desires or concerns or issues of other people. You're just focused about yourself. You think yourself is the center of universe, and that state of mind sometimes people think and call themselves I. So here she says, the answer is I. हर कोई अपने आप को I बोलता है. Anywhere and everywhere I see the one who calls himself I. और मैं हर तरफ देखती हूँ ये आदमी जो अपने आप को I बोलता है. ये आदमी अपने आप को I बोलता है, मतलब वो अपने अंदर से बाहर नहीं झांक सकता, वो बाहर कहीं किसी और के मन में नहीं झांक सकता, वो सिर्फ खुद के बारे में सोचता है. I see the one who calls himself I in this world. He is tightly packed like the sword in its sheath. जो भी ये आदमी, मतलब मर्द, बेसिकली मैन, जो अपने आप को आई बोल रहा है, वो कैसा है? उसकी सिचुएशन इज लाइक ए स्वॉर्ड in its sheath in the sense myan, the place where a sword is kept in rest. How much claustrophobic. The sword is not able to do its role, it is claustrophobic. Now what this refers to, sword in sheath, if I bring in Fred and his very famous, or rather infamous, sexual and psychoanalysis, then does it refer to a male phallus which is at rest, and when in excitement it causes devastation the way that male caused devastation in Kamala Das' life? Or does this sword refers to the ego of a male? Or does it refer to the feelings and emotions which are trapped in a male's mind? The male is not able to find an outlet for those emotions and feelings, and he is himself struggling to express them or to let them reach a fruitful conclusion. He is himself under a trap. Anyway, I leave it to you to interpret. We move forward. It is I who drink at 12 midnight in hotels of strange towns. It is I who laugh, it is I who make love and then feel shame. It is I who lie dying with a rattle in my throat. वो मैं हूँ जो अकेले ड्रिंक करती हूँ, शराब पीती हूँ, लोनली. ड्रिंक एट 12, रात को 12 बजे. मिडनाइट, दिन के नहीं, रात के 12 बजे. इन होटल्स ऑफ स्ट्रेंज टाउन्स, अपने घर में नहीं बल्कि होटल्स में पीती हूँ, अपने शहर के नहीं, स्ट्रेंज टाउन्स में. सी, with every passing word, the intensity with which the poetess is flouting the social expectations of a patriarchal society is increasing with every word. I repeat, it is I who drink, lonely, drinks at 12, midnight, in hotels of strange towns. See how much she has flouted all the rules and expectations. It is I who laugh, मैं हंसती हूँ. It is I who make love, जो प्यार करती हूँ. एंड देन फील शेम, और फिर खुद ही शर्म आती है या रिग्रेट होता है. इट इज़ आई हु लाई डाइंग विद अ रैटल इन माई थ्रोट, और वो मैं हूँ जो मर रही हूँ अपने गले में एक दर्द लेकर, अपने गले से. शी इज़ नॉट एबल टू नाउ एक्सप्रेस herself. See, not further what she says. I am a sinner, I am sinner, I am saint. मैं ही पापी हूँ और मैं ही साधु हूँ. I am the beloved and the betrayed. मैं ही प्रेमिका हूँ और मुझसे ही बेवफाई हुई है. I have no joys that are not yours and no aches which are not yours. I too call myself I. मेरी ऐसे कोई खुशियाँ नहीं हैं जो तुम्हारी खुशियाँ ना हों, और मेरे ऐसे कोई दर्द नहीं हैं जो कि तुम्हारे ना हों. मैं भी अपने आप को आई बुलाती हूँ. So now see in these lines, I am a sinner, I am a saint, I am the beloved, I am the betrayed. I have no joys that are not yours, I have no aches that are not yours. The poet has moved from individualism to universalism. She is now saying in a way that she has given us a signal that she is not talking only about Kamala Das. She is not talking about this woman called Kamala Das, but rather what she is talking is, what she is talking applies to everyone. वो जो भी बातें कर रही हो सबके लिए हैं. And I to call myself I. और जैसे तुम सब मर्द अपने आप को I कह के बुलाते हो, the way you all are so much rigid about your personality and your desires and your emotions. So मेरा भी वजूद है. Even I deserve that. Even I deserve that space. See, this statement, I too call myself I, is a very famous and iconic statement which has been used quite often in English literature. Walt Whitman, he's said to be a national poet of America. He wrote a poem, Leaves of Grass, in which he made some kind of this thing, I see America sing and things like that. Then Walt Whitman was white. He belonged to the race of whites. Then a black American poet who was black in color. His name was Langston Hughes. He belonged to Harlem Renaissance, and he wrote a very famous poem in which he said, "I too sing America." That is, he said, "I too sing." I too sing, in a way that he was also trying to assert his identity, his existence. Now, on the similar lines, this poetess is also asserting her existence. That as a woman, she must also be allowed to exist. I too call myself I. तुम मर्द ही कब तक अपने आप को बुलाते रहोगे आई कह के, मैं भी हूँ कुछ, in this way. So this was the poem, friends. See, this poem will disturb a lot of people. The way this she has made confessions and the way she has drawn attention to her body parts. As I said, no person would ever discuss these things. No person would discuss these intimate, these intricate things, these sexual encounters. Kamala Das would do that, and quite often she would do that. And there's a reason why we call it a confessional poetry, because the person is making confessions, and not a normal person would be able to do that. In a similar way, there have been confessions poets elsewhere also. And as Sylvia Plath, for example, she was a very famous confessional poet in America, and she wrote a poem, Daddy, in which she said, "Daddy, I would have killed you." There were a couple of lines which meant like this, that you died by now, you already died, but had you not died, I would have killed you. I have had to kill you. These were her words. So imagine a daughter saying to her father that I would have killed you. And why she said so? Because throughout her poem, she mentions that how she felt trapped under the controlling father. The father was extremely controlling in her life. He was putting her under tremendous restrictions. He belonged to, it was written around the World War era, and he belonged to Hitler's or the Nazis or the fascist camps. And the poetess would say to him that I feel like a shoe, I feel like a foot trapped in your black shoe. So in your black shoe, I feel like a foot. That's how she says. And then at one place she says that you are dead, but if you were not dead, I would have killed you. So these kind of confessions poet make. There are a lot of confessions poet, most prominent among them Sylvia Plath. Some people even count Emily Dickinson is also considered a confessional poet. And our poet Kamala Das is also one such confessional poet. In this poem, as we see she's trying to claim some space for herself, and especially for her feelings and emotions. And a society which has been so rigid and blind. In those days, women's education was also not so common as it is today. So forget how society would have taken this or given space or acknowledgement to her sexual feelings. But she's very powerfully, she's trying to find space with them. And this, I hope, friends, this will give you some ideas about feminism. And feminism has many colors and many offshoots, and this is also a kind of feminist poetry. So Kamala Das, the kind of experiences which she has shared, they resemble a lot with her personal life also. And Kamala Das, when she was 16-year-old, she was married to a man who was around 38-year-old, more than double her age. There was a big age difference, and she did not live a fulfilled marital life. Now, when she grew old, she was around 65-year-old, and she fell in love with a man who was around 36 or 38. He was a Muslim man. Kamala Das was Hindu. And not just Hindu, but she belonged to a very orthodox family, a Brahmin family. Imagine a girl from an orthodox family writing these kind of poetry and ultimately falling in love with a Muslim man. How outrageous it would have been. How outrageous the society would have seen that in those days. And even today, some people say that Kamala Das converted to Islam because of the love of this man, this Muslim man. And she changed her name. She accepted Islam. That's a fact. That's a historical fact. And she changed her name to Kamala Suraya. And some people say that she changed her name and accepted Islam because of the hopes of getting acceptance from this man who was much younger to her. But unfortunately and sadly, this man ran away, and their love did not fructify, and he sort of abandoned her, did not marry her. So Kamala Das lived a life full of pains, such pains, and she basically lived in a world which is, I would say, emotionally sterile. I'm using these words for a very specific reason, that though there are sexual encounters taking place in the which the poet is discussing very clearly in these poems and in her other poems also, she would discuss these things, but emotionally the world has become sterile. There is no affection, there is no love, there are no sharing of feeling, and the kind of intimate love which the poetess wanted, it was never reciprocated. Her affections, her feelings, her desires, they were completely ignored, sidelined by all the males whom she met. And most specifically, the male in this poem. And one more thing, friends, in this poem there was a line, "For he drew a youth of 16 into the bedroom and closed the doors." Even this line can be interpreted in different ways. One is that he refers to her husband or maybe her lover who drew Kamala Das, who was around 16-year-old, into the bedroom and closed the door. Other interpretation could be he refers to a patriarchal figure, maybe the father, maybe some other elder, the male person in the family who tied her into a marital knot or a marital relationship with a strange man, and with whom she was closed in a sense. There was no escape route for her, and that man also sort of forced himself on her. Whatever ways we interpret it, but these are extremely intimate things, as I'm repeatedly saying, and no one would discuss them, but confessional poets do that. And quite often we see that they're more confessional poetry is more famous among feminists and women writers, and not everyone like such kind of confessional poetry. Particularly, for example, people or scholars, literary critics like T.S. Eliot or I.A. Richards, or those who belong to neo-criticism school of literary criticism, they would say that a poet should be talking about the grievances and the lives and the experiences of other people. Poetry is not a place where you express your own emotions or your own personality, but rather you try to talk about someone else or talk about some universal ideas. But feminists, they counter this thing, and feminists say, why not? Why not? Why shouldn't we be talking about our own personal lives and matters? Why shouldn't we share our most intimate desires and personal experiences? Because they say because women go through certain experiences which are unique to women, and these experiences, they say that we will share them in literature. These experiences may be joyful, for example, childbirth, or they may be as painful and horrific like rape. So these are certain kind of experiences which only women face, and thus many feminist writers say that we will write confessional poetry, and confessional poetry should be accepted and given acknowledgement and greater popularity in literature. Maya Angelou, Kamala Das in our country, Sylvia Plath in America, Emily Dickinson. We have seen a lot of confessional poets. So I hope you liked this poem. It's wonderful. If you will dig in further, you will find a lot of wealth and a lot of treasure also. In at one place, for example, there was this line: "I was a child, and later they told me." See, they told me I grew. The girl here is not having the autonomy or the agency to even decide whether she has grown or not. It is the society which is telling the girl that okay, you're grown up now, तुम बड़ी हो गई हो. ये बात सोसाइटी ने लड़की को बताई या उसके आसपास के लोगों ने बताई, उसे खुद नहीं ये चीज़ माइंड में आई थी. This shows how much she's lacking the control over her life as a girl. Initially, see, politics के बारे में पोइट ने टच किया था नेहरू का नाम लेकर, that I don't know politics but I know the names of those in power. That so much widespread this political things are. हर जगह slogans लगे होते हैं, हर जगह बैनर्स लगे होते हैं, रेडियो टीवी पे अनाउंसमेंट्स हो रहे होते हैं, सब कुछ पता है पोइट को, लेकिन उसमें उसकी कहाँ एजेंसी है. शी इज़ नॉट इवन एबल टू टॉक इन द लैंग्वेज विच शी वॉन्ट्स. And finally, the sexual encounters which happens in her life is so terrible, so pathetic, so painful that it leaves her devastated and it makes her hate womanliness. She starts behaving or wearing dresses like a male. But then again, she has to face greater resistance from the society, greater pressure from the society. The pressure increases, it mounts further, and her only desires, what were her only desires? Her desires were to find love and affection. But as this proceeds, she is not able to find them. Then she has to roam around in hotels of strange towns, and where at midnight she is consuming liquor. But everything is falling apart for her, but till the end, she is not able to find love for her, because the world is emotionally sterile. So with this, friends, I will close it. I hope you liked this poem. Yes, there is criticism for that also, but set it aside and see this poem from the standpoint of the poet. So with this, I will end it here. Thank you all.